Linda didn't recognize her own body anymore. It began like a joke, just an itch that wouldn't go away. Then came a smell she couldn't explain, rotten and smelly. The smell that oozed out of her body was like something was dying inside her. Then serious pain followed, deep in her lower belly. She went to the school clinic, hoping it was a simple infection. The nurse gave her some pills, told her to rest, but the days passed, and it got worse. 2 weeks later, she started noticing her underwear was always wet. Not from urine, something darker, thicker, a strange blackish fluid that left stains and questions. Then came the moment that changed everything. She went to the bathroom one morning, pulled down her pants, and screamed. Tiny white maggots crawled out from between her legs, alive, moving, real. This is Linda's story, a young university mother trying to survive, with a sick daughter and a body falling apart. Stay with us. You won't believe what happened next. The sun beat down mercilessly that afternoon as Linda sat quietly at the back of her lecture hall, weakly fanning herself with a crumpled notebook. Her stomach growled from hunger. She hadn't eaten since yesterday. Her mind wasn't on the lecturer's voice. It was far away, back home with her daughter, Isabel. The little girl had been coughing blood again, and the doctor said she needed urgent tests. The bill? 90,000 naira. Linda checked her pause. Only 2,300 naira notes stared back at her. After class, she dragged herself back to her hostel like her legs were filled with sand. When she opened the door to her room, she saw her roommate Jessica lounging on the bed, one hand painting her nails, the other holding her phone to her ear. Jessica was always glowing, always fresh, always smelling like expensive perfume. Her wigs were never the same twice, and she changed phones like slippers. As soon as she ended her call, she looked up with a smirk. "Babe, you looked like you were about to collapse when you walked into the room. Haven't you eaten?" Linda shook her head. "No money," she muttered. Jessica sat up, dropping her nail polish. "Linda, you cannot continue this kind of life. Your only child is sick, you're also going through a lot, yet you still act unbothered like suffering is your middle name. Allow me help you." Linda squinted, unsure. "Help me how?" Jessica's grin widened. "I can link you up with a man. He's a billionaire, clean, generous. He is very nice, and he likes beautiful girls like you." Linda's heart pounded as she stared at Vanessa. She'd never imagined herself agreeing to something like this, but her daughter's pale face and weak body haunted her every night. Linda sat on the edge of the bathroom sink, her eyes red from crying. She stared at her reflection, blank, tired, lost. All day, Isabel had been coughing again, her small chest rising and falling too fast. The drugs were finished. The doctor's words echoed in her head. If you delay this treatment again, she could get worse. But how was she supposed to afford anything with nothing? Her hands trembled as she wiped her face and stepped out. Jessica was waiting in their dimly lit hostel room, scrolling through her phone. Without looking up, she asked, "Have you thought about it well?" Linda took a long breath and nodded. "I'll do it, but just this once." Later that night, around 10:30, a black Jeep pulled up quietly outside their compound. Jessica handed her a plain black gown and a small tube of red lipstick. Linda changed slowly, each motion heavy. Her fingers shook as she painted her lips, staring at herself like she was looking at someone else. "One night," she whispered to the mirror. "Just one night for Isabel." The man in the Jeep didn't say much at first. He was tall, dark-skinned, with a clean shave and a gold watch that caught the streetlight like fire. When she opened the door and sat beside him, he smiled. "You're finer than I expected," he said, his voice deep but calm. Linda couldn't respond. Her voice was trapped behind fear. They drove out of town to a quiet, expensive-looking hotel. At the top floor, he unlocked the room, stepped aside, and said, "Feel at home. No pressure." He handed her a glass of juice and disappeared into the bathroom. Linda placed the glass on the table and sat at the edge of the bed, numb. The night blurred. She remembered flashes, his voice, dim lights, her own silence. By morning, he was gone. The room was quiet except for the hum of the AC. On the glass table by the window, she saw an envelope with her name written in fine blue ink. She opened it with shaky hands. Bundles of cash inside. 500,000 lira. A folded note slipped out and landed on her lap. It read, "Take care of your daughter. I'll be in touch." Linda held the note for a long time, the money still untouched in the envelope. Her eyes burned with unshed tears. She didn't know whether to feel shame, relief, or both at once. All she knew was, Isabel had another chance. Linda clutched the envelope with trembling hands, and before she could stop herself, the tears came pouring. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel powerless. That same evening, she rushed to the hospital and cleared all of Isabel's bills. The doctors began proper treatment immediately. Her daughter's breathing steadied, the coughing reduced, and for the first time in forever, Linda allowed herself a small smile. It felt like things were finally turning around. But what she didn't realize was that the price she paid that night was far greater than 500,000 naira. Her womb had been taken without her knowing. A month later, she started feeling odd. A strange itching between her legs, then a foul, unbearable smell. Pain followed. Deep, constant pain in her lower abdomen. She went back to the school clinic. The nurse offered antibiotics, but nothing changed. 2 weeks after that, something worse happened. Her underwear was always soaked, not with urine, but with a thick, dark fluid that clung to her skin. One afternoon, she went to the hostel bathroom and let out a scream that echoed down the hallway. Crawling out from between her thighs were maggots, alive, wriggling. She collapsed before help could reach her. When Linda opened her eyes, a sharp hospital light blinded her. Her body felt heavy, her throat dry. Standing beside her was Jessica, eyes wide with fear. "Linda, Linda," she whispered, gently tapping her arm. Linda turned her head slowly. Her voice came out broken. "They were inside me. I saw them. Maggots." A nurse nearby paused and looked at her, confused. "Maggots? Are you sure?" But Jessica didn't ask anything. She simply looked away, lips pressed tightly together, like someone who already knew and had known all along. Linda sat motionless on the hospital bed as doctor after doctor came and left, their faces puzzled, their tests showing nothing. No infection, no pregnancy, no signs of any illness. According to their charts, she was perfectly fine, but she knew something inside her was very, very wrong. That night, when the ward was quiet and the lights were dim, she slipped out of bed and went to the bathroom. As she sat down, a stabbing pain tore through her lower stomach, so sharp it made her vision blur. When she looked down between her legs, her blood ran cold. Maggots, small and white, writhing like something out of a nightmare. She gasped, covered her mouth, and used water to flush them away, shaking so badly her knees almost gave out. Standing in front of the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Her skin was pale, her lips cracked, and there were dark, hollow shadows under her eyes. She looked like someone drained of life. In desperation, she called Jessica, her voice cracked with fear. "You said he was safe. You said he was clean. Jessica, what's happening to me?" Jessica's expression fell. She didn't answer immediately. Her eyes darted away like she couldn't bear to meet Linda's. Then she said quietly, "I didn't know he still did that." Linda's chest tightened. "Did what?" Jessica hesitated, then leaned closer, her voice low. "Other girls that slept with him? Some went crazy. Others bled for days and never recovered. You're not the first." Linda's mouth opened, but no words came out. Her hands trembled. "You knew? And you still?" Jessica cut her off, tears building in her eyes. "He paid me more to bring you. I thought he changed. I swear I didn't know he still..." But before she could finish, Linda's hand flew across her face in one swift, burning slap. Jessica staggered back, stunned. "You sold me for money," Linda said, her voice hollow. Jessica's tears finally spilled, but it didn't matter. The betrayal was done. And the damage? It was already far too deep. Terrified and out of options, Linda held on to the last thread of hope her sister offered, an old prophetess said to possess very strong spiritual powers, living deep in a quiet village far from town. With trembling hands, removed her shoes and stepped into the small, smoky hut. The prophetess sat silently on a mat, her eyes closed, her skin marked with streaks of white chalk. She didn't ask Linda any questions. She didn't even open her eyes. Instead, her voice rang out clear and firm. "You carried a dark spirit that night. Your womb was traded." Linda's legs buckled beneath her. "Please," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't know." The old woman finally opened her eyes, their whiteness sharp and otherworldly. "The man who touched you is no ordinary man," she said. "He belongs to a powerful cult that feeds on souls. They offer women's wombs as sacrifice, for wealth, for fame, for control. You were chosen, Linda, and what you saw, those maggots, were not of this world. They are a warning from the spirit realm, a mark that your body is no longer whole." Linda clutched her chest, her voice shaking. "What do I do? I want my life back. I want to be free." The prophetess stared into her soul and replied slowly, "Freedom has a price. You must face him, not with fear, but with fire. But first, you must be cleansed. 3 nights in the sacred stream. If your spirit is strong, you will come back. If not, you may not return at all." Linda brushed away her tears, stood to her feet, and gave a single nod. "I'll go," she said, voice low but steady. It was the beginning of a journey she didn't fully understand, but something deep inside told her she had no other choice. The forest lay ahead, dark and whispering. By 4 a.m., the village was still buried in silence, with only the distant croaks of frogs and soft insect sounds filling the night. Linda walked barefoot beside the prophetess and her assistant, Ketchi. A white wrapper clung to her body. The cold crept over her skin like fingers, but she pressed on. Ketchi held a small calabash in both hands. Inside it were sacred items: palm oil, white chalk, a raw egg, and a palm frond broom. The narrow footpath wound deeper into the bush, where moonlight barely touched the earth. Linda's heart pounded faster. She had never stepped into a forest at night before, and now she was walking toward Orshamirani, the ancient river the villagers called the River That Speaks. Just before they reached the stream, the prophetess stopped and whispered, "This water is not ordinary. It watches, it remembers, it knows what was taken from you, but if your spirit is clean, it will fight for you." When they arrived at the edge of the river, the prophetess lowered herself gently to her knees and began to speak in a tongue that felt older than the trees around them. Her words floated into the air like smoke, and then the wind stirred. Leaves rustled, the trees trembled. Without warning, the water in the river began to rise and swirl, as if something alive had been awakened. Linda stood frozen. Her skin crawled with goosebumps. The prophetess turned and looked her dead in the eye. "Take off your wrapper, step into the water, let the river feel what was taken from you." With trembling hands, Linda removed the white cloth and walked slowly into the river. The icy water wrapped around her legs like chains. Her teeth chattered, Her knees shook. Then, the prophetess lifted the raw egg from the calabash and tossed it into the middle of the river. "If her womb was traded," she called out, "let the truth be shown." The egg floated, spun once, then cracked wide open. Dark black liquid oozed out into the water. The prophetess gasped and clutched her chest. "It's true," she whispered. "Your womb, it was buried in the spirit." Without wasting time, she dipped the palm frond broom into the river and began sweeping the water in slow circles around Linda's waist. As she chanted louder, Linda screamed. An unbearable burning sensation burst through her lower stomach. She bent forward, sobbing in pain, but the prophetess didn't stop. "The spirits are angry," she said, "but this must be done." Just as the ritual neared its end, a voice echoed from the depth of the river, low, deep, and not human. She must return the price or remain cursed. Linda looked up, her entire body trembling. "What does that mean?" The prophetess's face turned pale. "It means whoever sold your womb must return the money he received, or the curse cannot break, no matter what we do here." Linda collapsed to her knees in the water, crying helplessly. "But I don't know who he really is. I don't even know his real name." The prophetess looked at her with sorrow in her eyes. "Then you must return to the one who took you to him. Go back to your friend." Linda returned to campus the next day, her body weak and aching, her heart still heavy from everything she had endured. When Jessica saw her, her face lit up with surprise. "Linda, you just vanished. I've been worried." But Linda didn't respond. She walked past her without a word and shut the door behind her. Hours later, the silence in the room broke. Linda sat on the edge of the bed, her voice steady but cold. "I need his full name. Now." Jessica's smile vanished. Her expression shifted to fear, her eyes darting nervously. "Linda, please, I told you. He doesn't like people talking about him. He's dangerous." Linda stood and grabbed the collar of her shirt. "If I die from what he did to me, I swear I'll come back and drag you into the grave with me." Jessica froze, trembling. She reached for a pen and scribbled a name onto a torn sheet of paper. Chief Williams. Linda stared at the name, reading it over and over, until it was carved into her mind. This was the man, the one who held the key to her freedom, the one the river demanded. That night she couldn't sleep. She lay on her hostel mattress, eyes fixed on the spinning fan above her. The name echoed in her ears. Chief Williams. It sounded like power, like danger, like the end of something. She picked up her phone and searched everywhere. Social media, news articles, business records, but nothing came up. It was like he didn't exist. Yet she knew he did. She could feel it deep inside her. This wasn't over. When Linda found nothing about Chief Williams online, no social media, no business trace, no photo, she stormed back into the room, her face tense and her voice sharp. "Where does he live? Where does he work? Jessica, give me something. Anything." Jessica's confidence crumbled. Fear darkened her face as she backed away. "Linda, please. That man isn't normal. He told me never to talk about him. The last girl who tried to find him ended up insane. She started screaming in public, tearing her clothes." But Linda's voice rose, trembling with pain. "He stole my womb. He ruined me. What more can he possibly take?" Jessica broke under the weight of guilt. She looked down and whispered, "There's a place, a private lodge near Hilltop Estate. That's where he stays when he's in town, but the place is heavily guarded. You can't just walk in." The next morning, Linda dressed in an oversized hoodie and dark glasses borrowed from a friend. She stuffed a small bag with essentials, then took a bike to Hilltop Estate. The neighborhood was calm, too calm. Lush trees, spotless roads, high gates, and no children in sight. Everything was silent, too neat, like it was hiding something. She walked around pretending to look lost until a fruit seller near the corner gave her a hesitant glance. Linda leaned in and asked quietly, "Do you know a man called Chief Williams?" The woman's eyes widened. "That big compound down the slope," she whispered. "The one with the black Jeep. People around here call him D. Gong. Nobody uses his real name." Linda asked why. The woman swallowed. "They say he built this estate, owns half the land. But strange things happen in that house. Girls enter and don't return. Once I saw a girl screaming at the gate, begging to be let out. The guards dragged her away." A cold wind swept across Linda's neck. She walked slowly to the gate the woman pointed at, tall, painted black with golden carvings like ancient symbols. No sound came from within. Her heart thudded as she stepped forward, ready to face the nightmare head-on. Linda approached the tall black gate with trembling steps. Her heart pounded as she faced the two heavily built security guards, standing like statues before the mansion. "Good afternoon," she managed to say, her voice barely steady. I want to see Chief Williams. I mean, D. Gong." One of the guards chuckled coldly. "Do you have an appointment?" She shook her head nervously. The second guard barked, "This is not a church. You don't just walk in and ask to see anyone." Desperate, Linda pleaded, "Please, just tell him it's me, Linda. He knows me." But they only laughed harder. "Go home, small girl, before we make you vanish," one said sharply as they shoved her back and slammed the gate in her face. Linda stood there, stunned, tears silently rolling down her cheeks. Not from the rejection, but from the bitter confirmation that she was truly at war, with something bigger than she imagined. That night, she returned to the hostel in silence. She didn't speak, didn't cry, but around midnight, she woke up screaming. Her dream had been terrifying. In it, she was lying in a coffin, alive, surrounded by squirming maggots. Towering above her was D. Gong, dressed in blood-red beads, a cruel smile on his face. He bent closer and whispered chillingly, "I didn't just take your womb, I bought your destiny." Linda shot up from her bed soaked in sweat, her whole body shaking. Jessica rushed to her side, alarmed. "Linda, what is it?" But Linda couldn't even speak at first. She grabbed her Bible, held it tightly to her chest, and wept. "I need to go back. I need to return to that prophetess. This isn't sickness anymore. It's a spiritual war." Her voice shook with desperation. Meanwhile, in a far-off, heavily guarded compound, hidden behind tall fences and thick trees, Chief Williams sat calmly in a red, throne-like chair, holding a cup of palm wine. Shadows flickered around him, cast by the candles burning in a shrine behind him. The air was thick with incense and danger. He lifted a curved goat horn, poured wine into it, and whispered into the empty darkness. "She's waking up. She wants to fight. Let her." His voice was slow and menacing. "By the time she finds me again, there'll be nothing left of her." A smile tugged at his lips as he sipped his drink. For him, this was entertainment. But for Linda, it was survival. By 6 a.m., she was already on a bike, heading back to the prophetess's compound. She hadn't eaten. She hadn't slept. Her body felt like it was falling apart, but her spirit burned with fire. She didn't want justice anymore. She wanted her freedom, her life, her womb back. The long ride back to the prophetess's compound stretched beyond 2 hours, but Linda didn't care. Her body was weak, her head throbbed, but her mind was fixed. She needed answers. When she arrived, something felt off. The compound that once felt spiritual now carried an eerie silence. The breeze was colder, the shadows longer. The prophetess was already seated outside, her eyes sharp and unmoving, as though she'd been waiting. She didn't offer a smile or a welcome. She simply stared deep into Linda's eyes and said, "He knows you're coming. That's why he's sending shadows to cover your path." Linda's lips trembled. "I saw him in my dream. He stood inside a coffin filled with maggots and smiled. He said he bought my destiny." The prophetess rose slowly. "Then it's time we open the mirror of truth." As the sky dipped into shades of orange, the air thickened with tension. The prophetess set up a sacred mirror, crafted from stretched goatskin polished with charcoal ash and laced with blood from a black cow. Around it, she drew strange symbols on the dusty ground and lit 7 red candles in a perfect circle. The flames danced like they were breathing. She placed the mirror at the center and turned to Linda. "Sit. Look deep. Do not blink. Do not speak until the mirror turns black." Linda sat cross-legged, her heart pounding in her chest. She leaned forward and fixed her eyes on the dark surface of the mirror, bracing herself for whatever truth waited. Linda stared, unblinking, her breath shallow. Then, slowly, like smoke clearing, the images began to form. She saw a river, calm but mysterious, then 2 women guiding a trembling, naked girl into its cold waters. The girl was her. She watched her own reflection from that night, the fear in her eyes, the helplessness. The scene shifted. Now she was in the hotel room again, the lights dim. She saw herself refuse the glass of juice, then a sudden puff of white powder blown into her face. Her body collapsed onto the bed, darkness followed. The next image sent chills down her spine, a shrine lit by flickering candles and Chief Williams standing at its center. He wore red beads around his neck and a black wrapper tied across his chest. In front of him sat a clay pot filled with blood. Slowly, he dipped his fingers into the pot and pulled out a small object, a wax figure shaped like a womb. His voice echoed in the mirror as he raised the object high. "Here is my offering. Give me political power. Take her womb." He bent down and buried the wax in the soil beneath the altar. The vision shifted again. This time, Linda saw a version of herself years from now. Older, sitting in a white hospital room, crying beside a doctor's desk. "You don't have a womb," the doctor said gently. "I'm sorry." The mirror pulsed with dark energy, then a deep voice echoed, ancient and heavy. "Unless he returns what he took, your future will be full of tears." And just like that, the mirror turned black. The candles flickered violently. Linda screamed and fell backward, her entire body shaking as the truth consumed her. The prophetess wrapped her arms around Linda as she wept uncontrollably, her body trembling in shock. "I saw it all," Linda cried through gritted teeth. "He gave my womb away. He buried it like a sacrifice. He handed my life to spirits." The prophetess nodded with quiet sorrow. "Yes, and in return, they gave him wealth, status, power. But they took your future. That's why everything in your life has been blocked. Your joy, your peace, your health. It wasn't ordinary." Linda looked up at her, her voice raw with desperation. "Is there still hope? Can I take it back?" The prophetess looked into the dying flames of the candles, then spoke in a firm but heavy tone. "There is only one path. Either he must willingly return what he buried, or," she paused, then said, "his blood must touch the exact soil where your womb was laid to rest." Linda's heart pounded. "His blood?" The prophetess nodded slowly. "It must spill on that sacred ground. Only then will the binding be broken and your destiny restored." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Linda rose to her feet, her eyes burning, not with fear, but with fire. Her voice was low but strong. "Then I'll find him." That same night, as the moon hid behind scattered clouds, Chief Williams drove through the city in his sleek black SUV, fresh from a private political gathering. A smug smile played on his lips. Deals had been made, favors secured, power was drawing closer. But the moment he pulled into his lavish compound, the smile vanished. Hanging from the center of his gate was a red cloth tied in a strange, knotted pattern. He stepped out cautiously, his shoes crunching against gravel. As he approached, his eyes narrowed. Scrawled across the fabric in bold charcoal strokes were 4 haunting words. "I want my womb." A chill ran through his spine. He spun around, silence, no movement, just shadows and the hum of distant crickets. But he felt it. Someone was watching. Something had shifted. The gods had been stirred. The past was no longer buried. War had begun. This isn't the end. It's only the beginning. Get ready for part 2, a journey that dives deeper into darkness, into secrets no one dares speak. It's no longer about revenge alone. It's about reclaiming a stolen life. Don't miss what comes next. Like, comment, share, and turn on your notifications. The storm is coming.